8 o'clock and the boys are getting the cradle ready.
Well, we're off. Let's really hope that we are going back into the water and won't be coming out for a while.
But of course, as always, the proof is in the pudding when it works, if it works. So let's get this baby together.
Head up in the clouds, oh my, since I met you.
Right, just connecting 2 chains together. So this is our new chain. We've got 100 meters and I saved 20 meters of our old chain just because I like to carry over 100 meters. And we're using these links. I don't know if you've seen them before. It's 2 pieces that fit together like that, and there are 4 pins to hold it in place, and then you smash down these pins and that keeps the 2 links locked together. And then, just as a precaution, I'll probably get the guys to come over and just do a bit of welding around here, just to absolutely secure it. Hopefully we'll never need it, but at least it means that we have, I don't know, 120 meters if we do need it.
Okay, so we've added our extra chain onto the full chain, and it's now bowlined at both ends on the chain and into the locker. Next thing is to bring the whole lot back up again.
And as you saw, Liz has brought the chain back up, so we've got that extra 20 meters that's now been attached to our new 100 meters. And you saw that we put that link in. What I didn't explain the other day was that we have used these links before. They are actually very good if you get a well-made one. They are as strong as the links in your chain, and providing you fit them correctly, they should see you good. And in fact, we had one of these connecting links on our chain for the last 10 years, which connected the first 40 meters to the remaining 60 meters. And so quite often when we're out at anchor, we're hanging off the chain that includes that extra link. Never been a problem. Boys did a very nice good job of welding it, which is overkill. You don't need to do that, but we figured since the boys have got their travelling trolley with all the gear on them, they're able to come over and just give it a bit of a quick weld. So we have a date for our diary, and that date is tomorrow morning 10 o'clock. We've managed to fix in the diary a date to drop back in the water. It's about time we did, so I figured you know, getting back in the water will give us a bit of impetus to crack on and do the last few jobs we need to do. But as you know, the last 2 main jobs that are stopping us from leaving are outside our control, and that is the canvas work and a little bit of stainless they've got to do on the Dodger. So I've just been having to screw back in one of these panels on the swimming platform, and whilst I was doing that I thought I'd get the boys to come and polish up the underside, because obviously that side gets a lot of salt water, so I figured I'd get these guys to do it properly so it gets a nice good coating of polish and gives it a bit of protection for the next few years. And sadly, when we leave our spot tomorrow to go back in the water, we're going to have to say goodbye to One-Eyed Mum. This is One-Eyed Mum because she's got one functioning eye, and she's recently given birth to 2 little kittens. One-Eyed Mum lives in the boat one away from us, and we've watched those kittens grow. We've been feeding them, keeping an eye on them and befriending the kittens, who of course at first were a little bit wary of us, but we've now got to the point where we can actually pick them up and play with them. And we'll be saying goodbye to these guys, but I think we'll be popping back to feed them up and keep an eye on them whilst we're still here. It's a bit of a wrench though.
We've installed an exhaust flap, and this is simply because if we are in very bad weather with very bad following seas, the exhaust flap will allow the exhaust to be blocked so that no water can push its way through the exhaust and into the engine. Now obviously we do have a nice big high loop to the exhaust and it should stop it, but this is just a way of giving us extra protection in very bad weather.
Head up in the clouds, oh my, since I met you.
Here we are at 8 o'clock and the boys are getting the cradle ready. Today is the day that we haul out. Let's go and see what's happening. We've got a few things to sort out, like electricity, got to bring up the anchor chain, get the lines ready, all the usual stuff. And high water is around about 10 o'clock, but we've got 3 hours of high water. It stays at around about 3.5 meters for 3 hours, so that's good.
Well, we're off. Let's really hope that we are going back into the water and won't be coming out for a while, and that the engine starts.
So first thing we're doing now we're in the water is to check the seacocks. So this is the toilet seacock, and then we've got the sink, the cockpit drains. Okay, now because we've got the dripless seal, we're in the water, we need to burp the seal. The starter battery completely dead, didn't start, so we had to switch over to the house batteries to start the engine. We thought that might happen, so at least we know we've got to get a new battery. Now we're just going to let the engine run for a little bit, rev it up just to make sure that fuel is coming through into the engine. Of course it hasn't run for ages. Don't want to fall into the trap of letting the engine run for 2 minutes and use the remaining fuel in the pipes and it then cut out when we're halfway manoeuvring into the slip. So we're just going to let it run for a bit now.
Goodbye, crazy circumstance. Goodbye, forever and a day. Goodbye, jealousy, and goodbye, blame. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Memory lane.
WATERMAKER day. Time to have a look at this in a bit more detail now. So I've taken it out of situ and up on my workbench, which is the cockpit, and we can see straight away there's some pretty nasty rusting going on there on those hydraulic pipes. First thing I need to do is to actually take off the membranes, which is fairly straightforward. It just requires unbolting those pipes at that end and the same on the other side. Now this is a Schenker 30 modular system, and it runs off 12 volts and it produces about 30 litres. I've got 35 before now when the engine's running, 30 to 35 litres, and only draws 8 amps, which is pretty good. So we run it off the solar panels or if we are motoring. So it's a pretty efficient system, but as you can see we haven't used it for a while, so it does require a little bit of TLC. So we're going to change the membranes and we're going to strip down the whole thing and give it a good clean and see if we can salvage these pipes. I don't know whether they're salvageable or not. It may be that we have to get some new ones made up, and I don't know if we can do that locally, so let's see what happens. So here we can see the top unit. It's made up of 3 parts, and the way that this machine works is that it has this piston that is moving backwards and forwards through this unit, and that creates the high pressure. So it's converting low pressure to high pressure. And what tends to happen is sometimes, only sometimes, if you turn the machine off at the wrong point, this ends up settling right in the middle, this point here. And so we use this to just move it off center to recalibrate it. It's just a little bit dirty. It wasn't actually too bad, but I've given it a quick clean. So this much sort of goes inside to push that block along. And then we'll just use some silicone grease to tidy up, and just grease it up around there, and I'll put a bit more grease inside here. All of these should have washers on around here, which look in pretty good nick because this is still a fairly new unit, not been used much. And that seems to be in fairly good nick as well. Previously, sometimes these tended to split on this block if you over tighten these, and also just through use it can split there, but as I say, this is a fairly new block. Now you can see over on this side the lower block, and what I'm keen to do is to try and remove this. Unfortunately, with it currently in its position at the moment, it's very difficult to undo that without exerting too much force on this, which again may split this block. So I might have to take this unit out of the unit and flip it on its side. But anyway, let's just deal with this top one first, and then we'll have a look at this one afterwards. You can see there's a little bit of rust down there, which could do with a clean as well. Okay, so here we have the lower block, and the upper block sits on top of that. You can see quite clearly the O-rings there, so we have to make sure we don't lose those O-rings. So looking at the end of the membranes here, membrane's obviously inside, so this is what looks like carbon fibre casing, and you can see the bottom there. This is the high pressure water feed into the membranes, and then this is where the product water comes out. So we have to remove these, and you can see there's those 2 attachments on each of them, and then we have to undo these. The whole lot is held in place with a piece of metal that slots inside there. It makes sense when I take it out, and some Allen bolts as well. So next job is to try and remove this. Okay, so here we are with one of the membranes half removed from one of the tubes, and this fitting on the end here, that's just an additional fitting specific to Schenker. I'll show you the other one. You can see I've kept the pipe on, which I actually kept on so I could pull it out, so it acted as a handle to pull this end out. I have replacements of these because they can split over time. They can split across there. These ones seem to be in pretty good nick, but I think I'll take these out and put the new ones in. And that's, you can see the membrane there in its tube. So all we need to do is just pull this out, pop the new one back in, and pop these on the end. And in fact, this came out quite easily. Just were able to knock it down with a mallet and a soft piece of wood, just tapped it through, and it slid out fairly easily. I think when we put the new one in, first of all we'll clean this out, and we'll put the new one in, and we'll maybe rub a bit of silicone grease around it just to help it slide in. It's got an O-ring there which seals the end of the tube, and then this point here that attaches to the membrane itself. And if we pick up the old one here, you can see as I took this one out, we actually lost the little rim around it, so it actually gives us a good view inside the membrane. Hold on, there we go. So that's the layers and layers of membrane that have over the years have, you know, built up with crud and dirt and muck, and that is what it should look like at the other end. And you can see that nipple there is what the plug I just showed you, that's what that attaches to. So it drops on like so. So the next thing to do is to take the new membrane, and I have one here. and to post that down inside the tube. Now, one interesting thing I noted was that there is only a rubber seal on one end. I thought it was missing to start with, and I checked the other membrane and the old membrane, and in fact only one of them has an O-ring there, and this is actually slightly cut at an angle, which means that this can clearly only be pushed down one way. So I'm assuming that there is no O-ring at this end to make entry into the tube that much easier. So we'll push it down in from this end and keep pushing down until it's lined up, and this sits nicely inside the groove inside there, which will be somewhere behind here. So let's see how we get on. Okay, so new membrane's in and we are ready to put the unit back now. So there's the lower part, there's the box, there's the upper part over there, and giving it a good clean. So got rid of all the rust. They've come up quite nicely actually, some of these pipes, so fortunately haven't had to change those. The threads look okay, but of course, as always, the proof is in the pudding when it works, if it works. So let's get this baby together.
It's really great to be back in the water, isn't it?
It certainly is. We feel like we're one step closer. Still a few more jobs to do, but we're that much closer now to getting out of here and leaving.
Yeah, one of the jobs of course is to put some protection the rest of the Dodger, so we're waiting for the canvas man to finish, but that should be soon.
Yeah, Sen actually he has come over. We have done a fitting already, so he's halfway through that.
Yeah.
So he's gone away. Because he's based in Phuket, it takes a while for him to come over and complete that job. So that's pretty much the last main job, isn't it?
It is. Once that's done, hopefully we'll be out of here, so hopefully that'll be soon. Anyway, to the WATERMAKER. You showed us how you put the new membranes in and did all the cleaning up and the general servicing, and I want to know when we're going to be able to use it.
Yeah, that's a good question. So obviously we should run it as soon as we put it back in situ, but there's a couple of issues. The first is that we are in a very, very shallow, somewhat mucky, dirty marina. It's really bad. The water is so shallow. At low water, I think half the boat sit in the mud. Yeah. So I don't really want to run that new WATERMAKER with the new membranes in dirty water. Now, of course, it can handle that, but for its sort of christening, I thought we'd wait until we're out in the water. The other thing that we could do, of course, is to use the water in the tanks to flush it through, just to make sure there are no leaks.
But we can't.
Because?
We can't, because they were a little bit smelly, so we did a bit of investigation and we felt that they really needed a good clean. So that's what I've been doing for the last 2 days. Yeah,
so basically we're going to cover this off in next week's episode, I think, because Liz has spent ages trying to clean our tanks, which involves putting in various chemicals and things into the tanks. So unfortunately we can't do that. So testing of the WATERMAKER will be put on hold until a near future episode. But if you do have any questions about WATERMAKERs, I know we kind of did a very quick time lapse as to how we got removed the old membranes, but if you do have any questions, pop them down below and we'll do our best to answer them.
Yeah, so when we get out of here, one of the first things we'll do, test that WATERMAKER here.
Absolutely. And by the way, just before we go, I should like to give a big shout out to David Oliphant, who is a Patreon and a fellow YouTuber, and he very kindly got in touch and sent me this t-shirt, and David goes under the name of
Rock Chalk.
There we go. So thank you very much for that, really appreciate that. Cheers. Okay, I think it's time to go crack on and get on with some more work.
Yeah.
So don't forget to do like this video if you like it, and do share it as well among your friends if you think anyone will benefit from it. And otherwise we say
peace and fair winds.
And this is a rubber flap that's held on with a I've forgotten, and it's a rubber flap that's held on with a I've forgotten what it's called. What do you call it?
I don't know.